It's a beautiful start to this new week. However, not so much for Bitcoin, as Bitcoin continues to play at the trajectory that we laid out on last Friday's video. In fact, throughout last week, we were saying, hey, while Bitcoin is in a decent position as of right now, if it fails to move past about $120,000 by the end of this past week, which it did not, then we are going to naturally shift towards an increasing probability of some sideways and downside price action, which is starting to formulate now. So I wanted to follow up on that. As always, we'll start out this one off with some short-term daily price statistics, and then we'll go over some more long-term stuff as well. But as far as Mondays goes, since this bull market began in 2023, Monday has actually been the most likely day to close positively out of any day, and does have one of the higher positive returns for those positive closing Mondays. Now, again, 54.5% or almost 54.5% of all Mondays have closed positively for an average gain of about 2.5%. To put that into perspective, that would imply a range high here at about $122,500. Personally, I do think that that's very unlikely to happen today. I think today is much more likely to close red or negatively for that matter, which 45.5% of all Mondays have since that date range began. And what's funny, or maybe not so funny, depending upon your disposition on Mondays, Monday actually has the highest negative return out of any day at just around 194. So to put that number into perspective, that would imply a range low somewhere around 117, 200 or so, give or take a little bit from that number. And I don't really think that Bitcoin's going to break that number today. You know, if you do get a wick down around there, I think that is probably fine for a bit of a scalp play position if you're very, very, quick with it. Probably going to get a little bit of a bounce there and come back to it tomorrow. Of course, I'm not your financial advisor. I'm not even your fucking dad. So I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm just telling you what I would do if I had that sort of preference in this situation, let's say. Anyways, moving on from there, I want to get into some more statistics, perhaps some more controversial ones, which I know everyone fucking loves, which is, of course, the moons. Now, if you're on this channel and you're new here, you probably are saying, what the fuck? And you should be saying, what the fuck? But I should remind you, this channel only cares about probabilities and statistics. If you are not that kind of person, then fuck off. Get the fuck out of here. You're in the wrong place. Like, holy shit, use your brain. Just kidding. I mean, I'm actually not kidding because, well, I'm not going to stop doing that, but yeah. Anyways, on to the topic here. These blue moons have traditionally been the sort of bearish phase for Bitcoin, which has equated to more or less at least a sideways sort of period for Bitcoin, sideways and down. And in the worst cases, obviously a reversal for Bitcoin. You can see all of these red arrows here pointing towards, decent iterations of this. The ones that are not red arrows were, generally sideways, corrective periods before Bitcoin, reaccumulated and got ready to make another upside move. Now, we can see that this one did fire off another one right here, and I'm going to use the Quan Prime service to backtest just the signals that are done on this day for Thursday. And if we go into the strategy tester, we can see that throughout the past, I'm testing the past 8 years since 2017, and we can see that there have been 14 prior signals on this day, and 50% of those have been have closed profitably, meaning that they produce some sort of a downside move from open to close, which is a 14 or 15 day period. But I don't really care so much about, I do care about that, but what I mostly care about here is in the trade analysis. And in the trade analysis, we can see that the average winning trade and average losing trade are going to be a great sort of indication as to the ranges that we should really be expecting throughout this kind of 2-week period, which again began last Thursday. So for these setups that have won over the past 8 years, there's been an average return for the winning trades, just for the winning trades, of just under 6%. So kind of, I would say relatively low there. On the losing side, so this would imply upside price action, obviously, that has actually returned a negative, it's been a negative return of 16.5%. So even in the event that, these setups are not statistically at face value, they don't look great. What I'm very interested in is just the timing of this, which again is a 15-day period, and then the ranges associated with both wins and losses. And for that, I think that that's incredibly valuable. That's one of the beautiful things about the Quan Prime service. You can get all this data, just laid out for you. Anyways, in the event of a loser, which does happen 50% of the time, we're looking somewhere, what was it, like 14.5? Let me just double check. 16.5%. Okay, that's seemed pretty nasty, man. All right, well, let's see. 16.5 would put you where in, let me see exactly when this one would be, 15 days. So that would be the 9th of August. And that would put us, actually, if it went all the way up there, around 140,000 US dollars. Kind of crazy, a little bit hard to imagine at this exact moment, but not impossible, obviously. And then, of course, to the downside, nearly 6% to the downside would put Bitcoin where? At about 111-ish, 110-ish region. I do look at that as a very much relevant region if Bitcoin does play out a further pullback from here. here. That area makes a lot of sense, actually. Anyways, moving on from there, let's get into some price action pivot ranges. Let me actually bring up my notes because I forgot my damn notes again. It's like really, really cumbersome to not have more than one screen. It really fucking sucks. It's like fine for, just my regular shit, but for recording videos, actually, like that's the actual hard part. Like, you don't actually need a bunch of screens to actually trade or invest or anything like this, but to record YouTube videos, you definitely do. That I can tell you. Like all these guys with fucking 50 screens in their back, background. I think it's questionable. That's just me though. Anyways, yeah. So it's basically the same ranges as what we saw last week. I do think, however, you could move down the top side range resolution a little bit from last Tuesday's high at about $120,000 to now this morning's high actually at about 119,900 I think on the index or Finex right here. So that would be a lower high. Trend is to the downside here on the 12-hour time frame. It hasn't really led to any like major resolution, to be honest, still overall range bound, but yeah, you have 1, 2, 3 lower highs, you have a lower low in there as well. So yeah, it is a short-term downtrend. If you go to the daily time frame, I still agree with the bottom side of this range. I would put it at 115,800 or 115,800. Need to see a closure below there. If we do see something as such, then I'd be looking for Bitcoin to make a nice little run towards that green moving average, which is about 111.5-ish. Again, give or take a few from that number. And that also does align quite well with the winning side for these setups over here on the moons. The old moons, the witches call this one yet again, perhaps. But yeah, that's really only if Bitcoin starts to break this region. Again, 115,800, I think, is the line of sand, at least for myself. So, it's like, yeah, it's short-term downside trend. Does Bitcoin retest the bottom side range? Probably, yeah. But getting below this range is still kind of difficult. So, personally, I wouldn't be front running these sort of things. It's really, really easy to get caught up in the emotions in this market when Bitcoin's, making big nominal moves, $4,000, $5,000 moves, but no range has actually been broken. I mean, that's just kind of like the illusion of this asset right now. But yeah, that would be my major areas of resolution, again, to the downside, 115,800, as long as you're above there. I mean, still, I guess, okay, although I personally think it's going to have at least a downside trade at the bottom side of this range. And to the upside, I'd be using this morning's high, 119,900. If you get back above there, especially on a closing basis for a daily time frame, this thing should go for the upside return that we saw over here. Anyways, moving on from there, I want to get into some more technical signals here. On CME, we can see a 12-hour regular bearish divergence drive forming as well. That is going to be between this high and this high. And again, that would just kind of help round out the downside bias. And on top of all of this, I want to acknowledge that all higher term time frame stochastic momentum oscillators are healthily, well, I don't know if everyone would agree with that statement, but they are all positioned to the downside. And if you've been on this channel for a while, you know my rule that when we see the daily, 2-day, 3-day, 5-day, weekly, and beyond, all pointed in the same direction, I'm usually going to bet in that same direction. So daily time frame is going to be continuing to show downside from stochastic momentum perspective here, as long as you're below 119,200 on today's closure. 2-day time frame, which closes tomorrow night, is going to have a pivot a little bit higher than that at 120. Again, also down. And by the way, there is a nice little trendline regression coming in here for the lows, but obviously, if you're going to be looking for that to play out, it's going to take it's going to take a while for it to get down there, like late August maybe. Anyways, 3-day time frame also going to be positioned to the downside freshly, I should add. 120 is the pivot. Tomorrow is the closure. 5-day time frame also closing tomorrow night. Also pivoted at 118,850, so a little bit lower than the others. But if all of these are turning at the same time tomorrow night, I would say that that's, in my opinion, full-on confirmation that we will actually see extremely high probability of a range break to the downside. You're probably looking around 110, give or take a little bit from that number. If we go over to, let's actually go to the weekly as well. Weekly time frame will freshly turn down at the end of this week below 118,400. So, it's kind of, again, wearing out its welcome here without continuing. So I don't look at that as a great thing. The bi-weekly time frame closes at the end of this week. 118,400 is the pivot. And, speaking directly to the options traders here, this is one of the few times where I do think buying some premium or buying some options actually makes sense. We see low volatility on basically every time frame that matters. So options are cheap right now. I do think that there is a bit of a downside bias here. Yeah, I want to see that range break to the downside first, but we're looking at anywhere between $5,000 to maybe even as much as $10,000 further continuation if that pivot is broken. Anyways, we'll get into the very end here now. I don't want to draw this one out too much. Maybe I'll give a quick sort of. Well, I do want to. Kind of want to go over the 5-day setup, but it's not super relevant. Yeah, we'll leave that one for another video. I'll get rid of that one right here. But let's go check in on the hash ribbons indicator. So while I am suggesting that downside is, a little bit more likely here, I want to remind myself that these signals on the hash ribbons indicator are very, very close to confirming. The daily time frame might even confirm today, by the way. Or I guess it would be tomorrow because it's 0.9 days, and we are definitely more than that for today. But yeah, I guess tomorrow, which again aligns with that 2-day, 3-day, 5-day closures, and 10-day, by the way, as well. By the way, where is the 10-day pivoted? Let's go see. We'll find out together. Yeah, it's going to be down if Bitcoin closed below 118,350. Jesus. All right. So yeah. Anyways, the 5-day time frame also has that potential blue buy signal in play there. So assuming that these ones do confirm on tomorrow night's closure, I still think that there could be a downside move, but I would just look at that as an opportunity. And again, Bitcoin could come anywhere down close to that last prior higher low, which would be about 106 or 105.5 here from the 1st of July. And, as long as we don't see closure below there, then the condition isn't violated. So again, that offers up a very large range here, but I would have the sort of, the bias that it's an opportunity. It's kind of what I'm trying to say. So yeah. Overall, I kind of look for Bitcoin to make a relatively short / medium term downside move. And then hopefully, assuming these ones confirm with the blue, then, I'd be looking at that as an opportunity, and Bitcoin, sets it up for maybe like a late August / early September run, something like that. I think it's just naturally going to take some time. We also got the 5-day 5 EMA set up over here. It's actually still alive. The one that opened up at 106. It will close if Bitcoin closed tomorrow below 116.5. So just kind of keeping a quick update for the 5-day 5 EMA strategy enjoyers out there in the world. Obviously, we'll look at it again tomorrow. And other than that, just want to wish you the best as always. If you're interested in any of the tools that we used in this video, you can find them here in the teachable link in the description below. We also offer 7-day free trial, so you can, as always, just try it out, see if it's for you, see if it's not for you. I think that's the best way to handle these sorts of things, because at the end of the day, you need to make the decision for yourself. And we shall end things on that note. As always, I want to wish everyone the best of the best. Take care. Did we talk about upside? We did talk about upside, but yeah. Look, back above this morning's high, especially on even a 12-hour time frame closing basis, this thing's going to fucking explode to 125 first, and then you got like 135 to 140-ish later on. All right, cool. That summarizes right there. Take care. Much love. See you hopefully tomorrow.